Greetings, friends, and welcome to another episode of The Mistake Zone, your weekly dose of our lives and the mistakes within them. My name is Jaren Wade. Joining me, as always, one of my best friends in the whole wide world, Matt Alba. Hey, Matt.
Yo.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
Matt, that's great. I'm doing good as well, Matt. I think we got some good vibes going. We're going to talk about some video games we've played this week, but Matt, got to do it again. Got to hit you with it one more time. Matt, it seems like you and the boys are going on vacation in roughly a month's time from when our friends are listening to this episode. So let's do it, Matt. Weekly check-in. How is your preparations going?
It is not at all moved. I really need to literally start anything.
Realistically, when it comes to a vacation, what's your lead-in prep time usually? Are you someone that tries to, I guess not including booking, well, I guess in terms of one, trying to book or, figure out what you want to do, and when do you start packing? When do you start, getting things ready?
I think I start getting things mentally ready a lot earlier than I think I need to. Maybe like I'm already, Jaren, thinking about things that I should buy that I should have bring there.
Fair enough.
Kind of like simple stuff like like raincoats or not rain, like parkas or whatever, and I don't know, like power converters and kind of like the simple stuff like that I can just order off Amazon.
Right. And for your, I guess your itinerary, how long in advance do you plan that out, or do you kind of just wing it to a degree?
Our itinerary is like pretty planned out. Like we've already booked all the hotels and everything.
Okay. That's cool,
so we know like how long we're gonna be in which places, but we don't know what we're doing on the days we're in those places.
All right, fair enough. My final question, Matt. I don't know how the weather is going to be roughly your time. I think we went around a month later last year when we went, so I'm guessing the weather might be kind of the same. But Matt, are you gonna try to hit up that Universal Studios or?
No, we're not even gonna be going to Osaka. So yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I love me some Osaka,
I wanted to go.
Matt. Yeah,
I wanted to go.
Hey,
but
Matt. Round 3, right? Round 3.
Round four.
Round 4. Okay. Round 4 for you. Round 3 for me. I got you. Okay. Okay. But Matt, hi. We're here.
Sorry.
What's up?
I have one more thing, Jared.
Yes.
I was deeply considering getting my passport redone because, Jaren, the only thing in my passport is 2 other trips to Japan, and I don't know if that's just a weird look where I just like give this, I don't know, customs person my passport, and it only has 2 other trips to Japan in it and nothing else. For the past 10 years.
Fair. I think that's fair, Matt. It was hard to travel, especially the last few years, but for the longest time, I know when I first went to Japan, the only other, stamps in my passport were for America. So I think every time I've traveled abroad, it was when I was a lot younger. So I don't think those passports or those stickers were in my current passport or whatever. But hey, Matt, we can always that can always be our new collection moving forward. But enough of the weekly check-in. Hopefully we'll get some progress next week. But Matt, actually, since I'm not going to do no recent activity this week, just because, to be honest, Matt, this episode we're going to be talking about this latest Steam Next Fest. And I played a lot of demos. You played a lot of demos. So I think that covered my gaming quota for this week. But I know I shouldn't pull the cart before the horse. But I was thinking of a segment for this summer. And Matt, I have old man brain. And I don't actually remember what we talk about in our various pods. But did I ever talk to you about a segment where I would go to the library and borrow a game every week to play?
I don't think you've ever discussed this.
But as someone who wants to, utilize our local libraries a lot more this year, especially considering how many cool, just services and the like that are available in a public library in general. Matt, I was kind of thinking about, maybe, I'm trying to bolster my played games on Steam this year, of course, but that means my Switch and my Xbox, maybe a PlayStation down the line. Those are going to be collecting dust. How do I play more other than Game Pass? And it's, I should probably check out my local library and borrow a few games. But I don't know why I told you that on air. That's mostly backstage, behind the curtains. I don't know, things we usually talk about pre-show, but that was something on my mind, Matt. Matt, when was the last time you went to a library?
Oh man, it is. Jaren, you remember when we were in university and you had to film a project for
Yep. Good time.
Yeah, probably. I think that's the last time I was seriously inside a library, unless you count Ribfest, which takes place like outside the library.
That's true. That's fair enough, Matt. But an idea I was playing around in my head to, utilize the services a lot more, but maybe we'll revisit that down the line. But you know what I want to visit right now, Matt, before we start talking about some of the demos we played?
What is it, Jaren? Classic.
Of course, Jaren's Kira Sparkling Water review. Matt, this week I'm drinking some LaCroix.
Okay.
A sparkling water beverage. And this is key lime, not hashtag ad, not hashtag sponsored. But Matt, I feel like with the LaCroix brand of sparkling water, it was one that I put in the higher tier of sparkling water, especially when it comes to price, because Matt, the only reason I have a few cases of LaCroix in the basement right now is because we found them on sale. So we stocked up, and I thought, hey, what better way to partake in these beverages than our stupid poopcast? And I'll be trying key lime now, Matt. So here we go. Here's your Jaren drinking ASMR. That is really gross, but... So, Matt, I think whenever I see a lime-based, sparkling water or soft drink, I usually associate that with Sprite, 7-Up, that type of fizzy beverage where I'm not necessarily... I couldn't actually tell you if Sprite and, 7-Up actually taste like lime or lemon lime. But... that's the flavor I associate with lemon lime in general. But going into LaCroix's key lime, I was kind of expecting that. But I know key lime has a specific taste that I associate more so with lime flavored yogurt, for example. And that's actually the flavor I'm getting from this specifically, where it really gives me that taste of lime that I get from yogurt. And I don't know why, but when you first initially drink it, it does kind of give that initial Sprite taste, but maybe that's because it's a sparkling fizzy beverage. But as it settles, especially towards the back of your tongue, that's where that specific, I guess, key lime flavor comes in. That one I'm used to, at least when I drink or consume lime yogurt. But this isn't bad, Matt. This isn't bad.
Nice. Jared, how strong is the lime portion of it? Because I always like a lime drink, but I can never really find anything that's very distinctly lime.
I think this one's actually distinct. Well, again, what I associate with lime yogurt. So I think this one has a stronger lime, especially aftertaste. It kind of tingles on the tongue a bit longer than usual, or at least longer than I expect. But I like this, Matt. This is a pretty good beverage. Again, this is LaCroix's key lime. And I don't know the difference between a key lime and a lime, but, well, I guess I've had key lime pie before. And yeah, I can see it invoking that key lime taste now that I'm associating it with, again, the yogurt and the pie flavor. So I like this, Matt. Matt, I think I would put this just under. I'm gonna put this under the President's Choice cranberry ginger. I still like that, but I think that's a solid third place right now. Good lime flavor. It hangs a bit longer than you expect, but it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's refreshing. This isn't a hashtag ad. This isn't a hashtag sponsored. But Matt, you know what? I'll give this hashtag delicious.
Nice.
So Matt, as I said earlier in the episode, before I told our friends about some more sparkling water, the latest Steam Next Fest I guess it concluded today at the time of recording. And I believe this went on for the last week or 7 days or so. And now that we're behind it, another successful Steam Next Fest, I think I heard that there were over 1,000 games participating. And we're here this week to kind of share a tiny fraction of those demos, our impressions of them. But I think before we start off with the ones we actually did play, I know me personally, Matt, I downloaded a lot of demos, I guess, this Steam Next Fest and even all Steam Next Fest. And there were a few that I didn't get a chance to play before the time of recording. And I just wanted to shout those out real quick. And Matt, I know you have a list of titles as well. The few games that I downloaded this time around but didn't get to were Diceomancer, Pyrene, Secret Agent Number 6, Glitch Spanker, Catch Them Sweetie, Normal Fishing, The Dark Trong, and Matt, the one I'm not necessarily heartbroken, but the one I wanted to play the most was the game. I'm not sure if you heard of it, but it is Balatro. Essentially,
not sure what that is. Yeah.
It's coming out February 20th, so I'm not too heartbroken that I missed it during the Steam Next Fest. But the reason why I wanted to check this one out, I heard a lot of good things about it, was this is a card deck building roguelite, but the premise is it is poker based.
Oh, that game, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
And how, you're trying to cheat out these monster poker hands. And I think the demo itself was really substantial. I saw a lot of people saying, oh, this feels like I'm stealing from the devs by playing this demo a lot. And Matt, I think that's what I struggled with a lot during the Steam Next Fest, where I was impressed with quite a few of the demos I played. And I don't know about you, but when it comes to demos in general, once I feel like I've gotten my fill, once I've sunk my teeth into it, I try to not play any further than, I should, because I eventually do want to play this game and kind of consume it at its, I guess, final release point. But Matt, you also have a list of games that you didn't check out. Were there any that you downloaded that you might get to next time, or at least are keeping an eye on?
I mean, I think I'm going to be keeping an eye on all the ones I downloaded and didn't play. And that list of the games that I did download but just didn't get a chance to play were Chicken Police, Eden's Guardian, Dual Corp, Valiant Tactics, Spear Song, Cards RPG, Breachway, Gatekeeper, Stellagate, and Stormgate.
That's a lot of gates, Matt.
Yes. That is.
But yeah, unfortunately, just some limited time that we didn't get to check out. But those ones at least seemed interesting enough for us to give that an old download. But Matt, what was one game that you actually did get to play through during the Steam Next Fest?
Jaren, if you were to kind of base the games that I kind of overall downloaded, compared it to the list of the games I didn't play, a lot of the ones I didn't play were deck builders.
Right.
And I think the reason that I didn't play any of those deck builders is that I think Yohane the Parhelion, Nuzumazu in the Mirage was such a good deck builder that I I didn't really. I felt like I got my quota of deck builder for the week.
Okay, fair enough. Matt, what was it about Yohane that really grabbed you?
Jaren, this game is anime girl slay the spire.
Matt,
Mm-hmm.
as someone who talked about a anime girl adjacent Slay the Spire a few weeks ago, you have my full attention right now, Matt.
Jaren, I think that like this is so slay the spire to me, and Jaren, I think that this is the most story I've ever gotten from a not only a deck builder but a roguelike.
Really?
Yeah, there's like legitimately voice acted kind of anime visual novel style scenes in this. And I don't know, the setup for this, or not setup, the kind of like completeness of this demo feels like very feature complete. It really does just feel like it's missing content.
Right.
And I don't know, there's just such a charm to it, Jaren. It legitimately, I think, is very, very Slay the Spire to me. It does have you have your character and then you're facing off against 1 to 3 kind of opponent characters. It has the, hey, this is what they're going to be doing on their turn, so you play your cards according to that. And I don't know, it feels very, very nice. I only really played through 2 different kinds of deck. Jaren, I think you are maybe gonna like that. The starting decks, or I guess like archetypes that you pick at the start of your run, is tied to your character's costume.
Nice, Matt.
So there was the kind of more defensive maid costume, and then there is the debuffing wizard costume, which I think is pretty good.
Okay, that's fitting.
And I don't know, Jaren, like kind of this game was just so charming. It not only is just anime girl slay the spire, it also, the story of it is basically this girl is a fortune teller and she's just there to help her friends. So she goes and gets sucked into a magic mirror, and the magic mirror world is basically Persona 5's Mementos.
Oh, okay.
Where you kind of do your classic roguelike thing where you're kind of picking your path based on like these kind of branching icons. And one thing that I kind of want to like highlight here right away is that their icons have a good legend and they're all very legible, which was kind of an issue that I had with some other roguelikes that I played through this Steam Next Fest.
Okay.
But that level of polish is like very, very good. And then once you get to the end, the boss is her friend that you're trying to help, and you're trying to beat up her shadow, and like just make them better. Basically, what you were doing in Mementos to begin with. And I don't know, the combination of like Persona into this game as well makes it feel really good.
Okay, Matt, I think you sold me on this game, and I'm definitely going to check it out. Any closing thoughts on Yohane, Matt?
I think it's like really good. It's coming out on February 22nd, which like makes sense for why it felt so complete.
Okay.
And I think like of all the games that I played, yeah, that definitely was the most complete feeling one. And I'm looking forward to the full release.
All right. I'm also looking forward to the full release. I guess in 10 days, at least in the time of recording, 10 days, but relatively soon.
Jaren, one more thing I just remembered. Jaren, the kind of like cards that show up in the game show up on the loading screen, but my game is loading too quickly and I can't read the cards, so I can't think about like what the future cards can be.
That's some SSD problems right now, Matt.
Oh, man.
But no, Yohane sounds really cool. Looking forward to check that out. But Matt, I guess with the games I checked out during the latest round of the Steam Next Fest, I'll try to rank them in terms of my least favorite to, I guess, my most favorite. And I guess starting off, Matt, I really wanted to like this game, and I'm talking about KinnikuNeko Super Muscle Cat. Matt, Aesthetically, it really reminds me of that late 90s, early 2000s after school anime you would see on YTV or Cartoon Network around 4:30. That
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
4 p.m. was Pokemon, 5 p.m. was Dragon Ball Z. This looks like a 4:30 p.m. anime where at a glance it seems like it's something quirky from Japan, but if you stare long enough at it, you start to think, oh, maybe this was done by an American studio, if that makes sense.
I
But
know. I get
I,
exactly what you're talking about.
Matt,
Mm-hmm.
you play as Kinniku, who is, well, a super muscle cat, as indicated by his machio body with a Speedo.
Mm-hmm.
He's accompanied by a girl named Lemon and some boy with glasses who, sorry, boy with glasses, I don't actually remember your name. Essentially, the world has been invaded by aliens, and our trio of protagonists are in hiding, and then, have to go and fight said aliens, save the world, and all of that. It's a platformer at its heart with combo elements. I think my favorite thing about Nico, is that Kinniku's attacks and dodging is him flexing and posing, which, Matt,
Nice. Mm-hmm.
if any game were to appeal to me, that's that. But you know me, I generally don't like platformers, and actually playing through the demo, it gave me very Newgrounds energy, if that makes sense, Matt.
Oh
Uh,
yes, yes, yes.
Maybe it's because I'm just bad at platformers, but I found the checkpointing not great. I feel like the hitboxes on enemies felt kind of off. Like, picture the distance you would think you need to be from an enemy to be able to hit them, and you just need to be a few pixels closer. That's kind of what I
Mm-hmm.
mean by it feeling off. Dashing into a long jump, I thought didn't feel great either, just from a general gameplay feel perspective. And you can find Lemon throughout the level or throughout the levels, I guess, which will allow you to turn into a normal cat. And as a normal cat, you can climb onto walls and activate some magical barrier at points to kill enemies. But even her, like, as the cat climbing didn't feel great either. I don't know, Matt. Again, I really like the aesthetic. A character like Kinniku should be my jam, but at the same time, I don't really feel the gameplay. It's just not for me. But if you're into platformers, you should check it out when I believe this game is simply coming soon. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
love the aesthetic, but not for me, Matt, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But Matt,
Mm-hmm.
since KinnikuNeko Super Muscle Cat made me sad, Matt,
Mm-hmm.
did any games make you glad at the Steam Next Fest?
I think the one that was like a real surprise to me, Jaren, was Nevergrave.
Okay.
Jaren, keeping with the theme of anime girl type games,
Hmm.
Jaren, Nevergrave is anime girl Dead Cells.
Okay. Again,
And
Matt, you're speaking my language.
Jaren, this game is so Dead Cells that it's weird. It it controls almost exactly like it, to the point where like the opening is, in Dead Cells, basically the opening of that is the what is it, like the flame kind of like headpiece for the Dead
Yeah,
Cells
yeah.
character.
I guess the
Like,
cell.
yeah, going to, oh yeah, it's a cell, that makes sense. Yeah. Going towards a body.
Yeah.
In this game, you are technically a witch hat, and you take over. I'm assuming it's the corpse of a witch,
Right.
and I don't know. It just felt really good to me. I think the thing that stood out to me the most about this game, which I don't know, I think really kind of solidified it in something that I really wanted to see through even more, is that the tutorial area I felt was designed really, really well.
Okay.
Like it felt good. The progression through the game felt very natural, or through the level felt very natural. It taught you everything at the kind of like moment that you would want it. It doesn't overdo its teaching. The design for the level kind of like really well hints at what you're supposed to look for to find the kind of like hidden area stuff. And then it does that kind of classic thing where it drops you at a boss that is the boss for the end of the demo. The boss, I honestly think that like if you were mad skilled at this game at the start, you could probably beat that first boss when you first encounter it. And I'm sure that there is some kind of like Chivo or something for that, but I don't know. The game also felt very fair in a way that I feel like Nevergrave doesn't feel like it's close to like really releasing. I think it is still it's just like vaguely set for Q1, but I don't know. There's something about it that still feels like I think like a lot of work could be going into it, or maybe this is just an early build of the demo.
Okay.
But a nice thing about it as well, Jaren, is that it has a town builder attached to it.
Okay.
Where whenever you die, in your run, you kind of just go back to kind of like you respawn inside a church, and the church is connected to a town that got kind of decimated, and you're just building up the town, and you kind of build it in a very Terraria kind of style, like a kind of 2D side scrolly kind of way, and it feels really good. Like you're you get to decide what relics go near your teleport point. Like I put the your kind of like power up places where you can spend your long term like currency and stuff, or the place where you kind of sell stuff is right beside the teleport for me, and a bit further down that's where I have my gardening stuff where I can grow tomatoes and stuff like that. Like it's a nice quaint simple town builder that's attached to anime girl dead cells, and it feels really good. And I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what stuff they add to this game or gets unlocked in the full version of this game.
Man, I think I initially also saw this game during me browsing through potential things to check out. And I immediately liked the aesthetic when I first saw it. Mm-hmm. But I think I saw the Metroidvania tag when I was looking at the user tags, and I noped right out of there. But Matt, thankfully, you checked it out, because I think this is definitely something I'll look more closely towards now that I know it's Dead Cells adjacent. But
yeah, and I think just going back to the point you had about KinnikuNeko, Jaren, I felt like this game handled like very, very nicely. Like it feels very tight to control, and I don't think I really had any issues with regards to kind of platforming around or kind of dodging and making my attacks connect.
Okay, that sounds good. I'm actually really interested in this now, Matt. Hey, thanks, Matt. But I guess for the next game I was able to check out, Matt, do you remember Triple Town?
I think you'll have to remind me about what that is.
Triple Town was one of the first mobile games that I played when I got my first non-BlackBerry smartphone. And Triple Town, and by extension the game I checked out, Teeny Tiny Town, is a grid-based match 3 game where you place down resources in an attempt to build a town.
Oh, I remember this game, Jaren. Actually, you turned me onto this game too. Yeah, I remember playing this because of you.
Yeah, matching 3 resources evolve those pieces into the next tier of resource, and so on and so forth. It's essentially a run-based game where you need to match up as many resources as possible. And Matt, I just realized, is Threes and 2048 just Triple Town at its purest form?
Yeah, I mean, there's also, Suika game, I think, like, goes into there as well.
Okay, fair enough, Matt. But anyway, that's the foundation of Teeny Tiny Town, though it has a few more mechanics that wasn't present in Triple Town that I played a decade ago, which for all I know could be there now. But some of the mechanics I enjoyed were you can store up to 3 resources to use later, a la Tetris. You have a limited number of bulldozers that you can just destroy something on the map. You have a limited number of swaps, which lets you swap 2 things on the map, and you earn gold every 5 turns, which you can use to buy certain resources, more swaps, more bulldozers. and runs end when you can't place anymore. And one of the goals to reach is 2,000 total gold earned for a level. And as you progress, you unlock different maps with different hazards like small ponds. You start off with a basic 5x5 grid. You unlock a 4x4 one with a pond. I'm not sure how much more is included or how many more mechanics slash shop functions they introduce. It did give me that nostalgic feeling of the first time I did play Triple Town, though. Matt, I was terrible at it. You really need to go into this type of game with, knowing how you want to use the resources and how they interact with each other when they evolve, proper placement, and being strategic of said placement. I think early on in these types of games, it's just so easy to plot down things, realize it's not evolving the way you want it to, and then completely pretty much walling yourself out of any potential moves. But for me, these games are so deceptive due to their easygoing look, when in reality, you really need to be strategic right off the bat. But I only put around half an hour, but it's still a pretty solid demo. That's a neat take on this formula with content that, again, rivals the memory of a mobile app that I played over a decade ago. But overall, it's pretty good. I think it's aiming for a July 2024 release if you're into that. Matt, it did show me touchscreen controls during the tutorial, which was kind of weird. So I guess this might be a mobile game at heart as well. But Teeny Tiny Town was an okay one of those games. And if you're into that type of puzzle game, check it out. But yeah, Matt, I think for me, Teeny Tiny Town was the only real puzzle game I checked out. But what was something else you checked out this time, Matt?
Jaren, I guess while we're on the conversation of surprising controls, Jaren, for me, a game that really surprised me with its controls is Sword of Concordia.
Okay.
Jaren, I kind of went into this demo because Sword of Concordia is a tactics RPG. And the kind of second I booted it up, I was totally kind of like already thrown off because it asked for an internet connection, like the internet connection permission. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Okay, maybe it just has like multiplayer or something in the demo, because some of these games have had multiplayer in the demo, and that like was a little bit normal for me. And then it asked for like, hey, can you sign into your Steam? And I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. Maybe they're just, just want to get like analytics or something. So I signed into my Steam. And then all the controls were exclusively touchscreen controls.
Oh no!
And
Matt.
I'm like, oh, that's really weird. This is really strange. I guess they're gonna, make this for mobile, and this is, kind of just like what they were designing for now. Maybe they're gonna add, proper controls later. Jaren, I got so far into this game. Jaren, this is a legitimately very solid tactics RPG.
Okay. But there's a but, of course.
I was like 30 to 40 minutes in until I realized this is a gacha game.
Oh, no. Jared. You got me mad. Did they ask for your credit card too?
No, Jaren didn't ask for my credit card yet. But then there was a point where, okay, so Jaren, the story in this demo basically kind of reveals itself to be a time travel story. Okay. Where at the very start you are saved by someone, and then you like join their group, and then the someone who saves you, does the typical kind of like JRPG mentor death scene. And then you vow to like, get revenge. And then some stuff happens and you realize, hey, I have the ability to go through time. So now I can, go back and save my mentor. And Jaren, I was like fully on board. I was like, oh, this is sick. I'm going to be able to replay missions and kind of like do stuff in a different way. Because I noticed that one of the things is that when you're going through the story the first time, there's a locked kind of conversation choice.
Right.
And that was like super intriguing to me. And I was like really curious on how that's going to work. And then there was a point where, kind of like your, I don't know, arcane helper or whatever, for lack of a better word here, the person who's like kind of like explaining how your powers work. It's like, oh, you're going to need help. And I was like, okay, cool. The like people who didn't die are going to come and help me. And then it just switches screen, and then in the bottom like right corner it says like summon 10.
No,
like,
no, man.
And then I pressed the button, and then oh man, I got some generic units and the classic hero that they add to your, like the classic 6-star that they add to your party at the start of games. And I was like, oh.
And then that's when you looked at your Steam wallet and you were missing $20, right?
Yep. Classic Jaren, they got me. But
amazing, Matt. Amazing.
Jaren, this is like if you are looking for a kind of like, the art style is very Final Fantasy Tactics. The combat style does the kind of like weakness strong system that rock paper scissors style system that Fire Emblem does. As a gacha game, as a tactics game, this is a very like solid tactics game. As a gacha game, I don't know, but the gameplay itself is intriguing enough to me that I kind of want to keep looking at it. I don't want to just because I feel like I'm gonna get sucked in, but a gacha game that involves like time travel, so there's like reason for the gacha and like different people being in places is interesting to me. But Jaren, it's a gacha and I got way too far into it, and I don't know. I feel I feel conned.
Something to look for, or at least look towards at a distance, Matt, just to make sure your wallet's safe. But yeah, I feel like a lot more gacha games are popping up here and there on Steam, or at least I'll be on a thread and it will be discussing how, oh, this game looks cool. Oh, wait, it's a gacha game. And yeah, I think that's the deception that you always have to keep an eye out for. But I guess when this game finally releases, we'll see how the monetization shakes out. Just because, yeah, as you said, the concept does sound cool, but Matt, I already fight off the temptation of 10 pulls on the daily. So don't think I need Steam to remind me to pull that. But Matt, for another game that I checked out during the Steam Next Fest, do you remember the Berserker scene in Clerks? It was with that scene in mind. The victory screen for the game Skogdal simply says "you win," and the confirmation button says "cool." That's everything you need to know to give you the idea of what Skogdal's aesthetic is. So basically, I'm going to try to stop saying it because Skogdal sounds like a derogatory term that I'm scared that I'm offending someone, but it's a deck building roguelite that takes place in a Norwegian town in the 90s. The overall style screams 90s stoner kid sketchbook where it's rough and crude in spots, but Matt, if you stare at it long enough, you can tell that they'll eventually hone their talent after a few years of drawing, if that makes sense. But other than that, it's your typical deck building roguelite format. You draft cards for your deck. You move from area to area, interacting with the environment to add cards to your deck, remove them, and ultimately fight the citizens of Skogdal who have seemed to have gone mad. Gameplay-wise, I don't see any real mechanics that I haven't seen before. You have your mana energy equivalent, damage sustained in battle carries on during your run, and there are different buffs and debuffs that you can synergize with one another. There is a follower system. They are cards that you can play, and then a friend will join you for the remainder of the battle, each with their own passive skills, like, oh, this guy generates a pizza card at the start of your turn, or this guy gives you +1 strength at the start of your turn. And of course, there are attack cards that synergize with your followers as well. But Matt, I think the presentation is the most impressive part of the Skogdal demo. I like how it looks, how everything at least seems to be hand drawn. I recommend it on how it looks alone, and the description of the game notes that it will have multiple paths along the map with different bosses and clues to unveil the full story. So I'm really interested to see how the whole thing comes together. Its tentative date just says 2024, but yeah, you're pretty basic deck building roguelite, but at the same time, I think its aesthetic, its style really carries it. So if you're into that 90s, like late 90s sketchbook look, I do recommend it, checking it out at the very least. But Matt, what else was on your playlist this time?
Jan, I think I'm going to go with one that was kind of a disappointment for me.
Oh, no. Okay.
Jaren, this was a disappointment for me because it just wasn't what I wanted it to be, and it just felt so minimal for what it was. And it's Astral Party, which I thought was going to be Anime Girl Mario Party.
Of course.
But
that's the
Jaren,
name. Yeah.
Jaren, it's not. It's just the board game portion of Mario Party without any mini games. And when you collide with someone, you fight them with dice and like cards. And initially, I was like very interested in this game because it looked like it was combining Mario Party and like a deck builder, but it isn't really. It feels very kind of like dry to me, and very underwhelming for what it actually is. Because like I said, you are just kind of going around the board. You can pick which way you're going, so you can kind of be going in opposite directions of somebody else. And then when you collide with them, it's like, oh, if you're the active player, you are attacking, so you roll a dice to see how much damage you do to them. They roll a dice to either dodge or block. And then like that's basically it. You're just collecting money to get the stars equivalent, and I don't know, not having the mini games in this game makes it feel so underwhelming.
Matt, even that Demon Slayer Mario Party game I linked to you earlier had mini games attached, but no, that's disappointing. Especially since it's so hard to already gather 4 people to play a dumb video game board game where without the actual board game mini game mechanics, I think that's a really tough sell. And it's not even Matt. I know you were bummed out, but I know. Sorry to spring this on you now, but to save this portion of the show, speaking about board games, Matt, I was really debating asking if, when you are in the boys or in Japan, if you run across a physical copy of that Nintendo Switch, The Game of Life, I might be interested in owning a copy of that because, Matt, despite not being able to play it, I think everything I've seen of the Japanese The Game of Life looks wild, and I wish there was an English version of it.
Yeah.
But Matt, I guess Astral Party is a no-go, but I think a go for me during the Steam Next Fest was called Blood, or #Blood, BLUD, and it's a very charming action-adventure game starring a girl named Becky who has recently moved to a new town. Aesthetically, it reminds me of a Saturday morning Cartoon Network cartoon, giving Dexter's Lab, Gumball, Courage the Cowardly Dog aesthetic and vibes. In between the animated cutscenes and some of the in-game animations, Matt, it really gave me that, oh man, I can't believe games look like this, feeling. I feel like that sentiment is usually associated with realistic graphics or even that of the, oh, I'm playing a Pixar movie. But I think being able to play a Cartoon Network game should be in that category as well. But I digress. The demo contains the first 2 chapters, with the first being the tutorial. You explore your neighborhood and high school, interacting with various things in the world and seeing hints of areas you can eventually explore, whether that be this manhole is covered, or there's a big broken wall in the park that's blocked off, or, simply, this door is locked. I'll eventually find a key. But in terms of story, early on, you see a vampire attack a truck driver. And as you play through the tutorial, there are instances that your yet to be seen mother was into the occult. So, with a name like #blood, you can expect you'll be trying to save the world by vampire hunting while being a high school kid. But really great aesthetic overall. Really enjoyed it. It's your usual action adventure controls with a dedicated attack button and an action roll. You are able to roll into an uppercut, which is the basis of damaging one of the tutorial bosses. I personally felt like that was probably the weaker aspect of the demo, in my opinion. But Matt, how do you feel about getting damage for touching a boss, if that makes sense?
Ooh, it depends on the game, but the way that you're describing like the style of this game, I think I would not like that.
Yeah. Essentially, with that first tutorial boss fight, it's about dodging into an uppercut, to damage it. However, you need to get your spacing right, because if you roll too close to the boss, you end up damaged, which was really off-putting for me. Again, I think just dodging into an uppercut didn't feel great, and I think trying to figure out the proper spacing to actually damage the tutorial boss, it took me way longer than I would like to admit. But I personally was never a fan of just touching a boss to damage you. It's definitely a skill issue on my part, but I also feel like it kind of just takes you out of the flow of the game and the combat. But you get access to your mom's grimoire at one point. It contains things like recipes, a bestiary, and even spells, which can potentially open up combat and exploration. But I'm not sure how much of that is explored in the demo. But as I said before, the game itself is charming, and I like that there's a certain central mechanic of a social media feed. Becky gets a smartphone early on, and it acts as your menu guide. The social media feed is populated by posts, and the starred posts are essentially your main and your side quests, which you can view, follow the comments for progress, and then you'll get more details about what's kind of going on. I really like that as well.
Good, yeah.
Matt, the best part, with the smartphone, you're able to take a selfie at any time by pressing the right bumper.
Nice.
I like this feature because you can find a camera icon around the map to take more stylized selfies, but if you take a selfie beside any of the NPCs, in selfie mode, it will actually just show you standing with that NPC.
Nice.
You can scroll through various poses, and once your photo is saved, it gets posted onto your social media feed with a little caption. I think they really went all in on the social media aspect, and Matt, I think they did social media for good, and we all know how social media is not good. So it's kind of good to see how Blood kind of plays with it as all. But yep, overall, another solid first impression. It is your Zelda-like game wrapped in that Cartoon Network look. I adore the presentation. I think some of the animation is really well done. And as weird as it sounds, I love how she opens doors, especially if she's facing the camera. I think it's a really cool animation. But yeah, I'm curious to see how the combat and exploration opens up, because as much as I like how the game looks, again, I find it difficult to get hooked on action adventure games in general. But Blood's presentation can potentially hold my interest for longer than usual. Check it out. But yeah, I think just really take a look at it just for its aesthetic, for its visuals. I think that's really impressive. But Matt, did something else impress you this Steam Next Fest?
Jaren, if you're looking for a game where you can rub up against the boss and not take damage,
yes,
I think Rotwood is where you should go.
Okay.
Jaren, Rotwood is a roguelike Castle Crashers.
Oh, nice.
And Jaren, you and I have a huge history with Castle Crashers. I think that was like really one of the first like games we really co-opted together.
Yeah, especially within our friend group too.
And I don't know, the combat in this feels very, very good. And Jaren, the animation in this for a kind of like 2D styled game is so weirdly smooth that it makes me feel uncomfortable.
Oh no.
Like,
why so?
Jaren, it just seems Jaren, I'm used to kind of just I guess like styles like this having a certain, I don't know, just like animation, like not it's just not so smooth. Jaren, the fact that the animation in this looks hand drawn but feels like it's tweening between like frames really smoothly just makes it feel so weird. Something about it is just like really off-putting to me, but
fair enough.
The game itself is so solid. Jaren, I think this is peak Castle Crashers style like video gaming. Like I said, the game itself is a roguelike. The story is like basically, hey, you guys were flying over a forest and you've been attacked by like a giant tree, and it knocked you down into the forest, and now you guys is like helicopter or ship is all broken, and your friends are scattered throughout the forest, so you have to go help and find them. And I don't know, like Jaren, like I said, it is kind of just Castle Crashers. You have a light attack, you have a heavy attack, you have your special ability, and you have your dodge button. In classic roguelike fashion, you are going to get your, like kind of passive power-ups, active power-ups, new abilities, and that sort of thing. The kind of like battle areas are really kind of just small areas. It kind of just feels like kind of like the same way that Binding of Isaac divides its rooms.
Okay.
Where you kind of just like are basically just in like in essence a square, fighting the things that are in there. Jaren, this is one of the games that I kind of like alluded to earlier that I think has bad iconography.
Oh no. Okay.
It's not that it's it's not that it's bad, it's that it's very unclear when you're like kind of first playing the game. And it fits into its aesthetic and like kind of theming of it being a kind of a mysterious place, but just as a player, I don't like, hey, what does this icon mean? Kind of thing. And I think at first it's also not very clear that you have choices, because the way that you kind of pick where you want to go is, I think, one of my least favorite things about this game. Because in the classic roguelike fashion, when you kind of go out to the I guess map screen, you can kind of look at your, what's it called? Kind of like Jacob's Ladder-esque kind of like map to see like, oh, okay, I want to go this way because I want to hit the like treasure chest and stuff. It doesn't let you do that. It's a lot more kind of Hades-esque, where you're only going to see what's coming up in the next room. And since the iconography is kind of unclear at the start, like that kind of makes it not great. And I don't know, the fact that I guess like you can kind of like tell eventually, but the rooms that you kind of go between aren't all in the same direction. Like you kind of just like Binding of Isaac, you go up, down, left, or right from the room that you're in, but it doesn't highlight it particularly well, I felt. So I, for a while, thought you would just keep going right, when in reality it was opening doors like above and below me that I just like wasn't noticing.
Yeah. Okay.
But I don't know. Other than that, the game itself is very good. I think that the first boss fight felt really, really good. It was, you're like basically fighting that tree that like took you down at the start of the game. And Jaren, you can rub up against it all you want, because I only know that because I had an ability where if you dodge, you drop a electric field, and man, Jaren, I was just dodging into that boss the whole time, and it felt really, really good.
Amazing.
And I thought the tutorial boss was very, very appropriate difficulty. It felt really, really good to fight.
Nice. Yeah, I think Rotwood was definitely something that I thought looked interesting, but I think at a glance, not necessarily the aesthetic that I gravitate towards, but I think from a
Mm-hmm.
purely gameplay perspective, Matt, you sold me,
Yeah.
which I'm really gonna keep an eye out on this, and hopefully we
Mm-hmm.
can get some boys and girls together to actually properly co-op it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For sure.
But Matt,
Mm-hmm.
speaking about teaming up, I think this next title is the only game we both played during the Steam Next Fest, and
Yes.
that's Children of the Sun, also currently to be determined or to be announced for its release date. This is a Devolver published game, and Matt, instantly booting it up, it definitely has that aesthetic where,
Yep.
as a fan of Devolver developed titles or published titles in general, I feel like there are two camps of games that they generally publish. That one, the quirky tongue-in-cheek game, and
Uh-huh.
two, that ultra violence that teeters the line between camp and almost too edgy.
Uh-huh.
And Children of the Sun is definitely the latter. But, just to kind of break down the premise, it follows our protagonist, simply known as the girl, who is trying to take down the cult and its leader. I feel like there should have also been a trigger warning in the beginning since the girl's father figure commits suicide in front of her, which starts
Mm-hmm.
her on her journey of revenge. And each level has you stealthily taking out cult members with your hunting rifle. Matt,
Uh-huh.
what did you think of the controls? Because essentially, you can only move around the perimeter of an area. She can only move left and right along its boundaries. You can either use your control stick or your mouse and keyboard, and just moving your mouse left and right makes you auto move. Pressing A and D kind of stops her. But
Mm-hmm.
when you first got your hands on Children of the Sun, Matt, what did you kind of think about how it controlled?
That initial kind of shock of, hey, I'm not gonna really move around with WASD.
Yeah.
Like I was kind of like going into this expecting it to be kind of like Sniper Elite or something. But yeah, Jaren, kind of like that going around the perimeter using your mouse to determine where you're gonna end up felt really weird to me. Jaren, I think
Yeah.
the thing that like bothered me the most about the controls is that to initial scope, you don't right click,
Yep.
you left click.
Matt,
Uh-huh.
left trigger or left click seems just to shift her blood soaked mask on and off. One, I thought that was kind of cool, but two, that's
Mm-hmm.
also pretty jarring as well. But yeah, as you said, hitting the right click or trigger brings you to your scope mode. Here you can zoom in and out as well as mark enemies. And I guess this is where the game's main mechanic comes into play and how this is
Yes.
more of a puzzle game more than a sniper, as you said, more than something resembling Sniper Elite. Each
Mm-hmm.
level has a handful of enemies, and the girl can only fire one bullet. Once you shoot that bullet, if it hits a cult member or an environmental hazard, then you return to that scope perspective and it allows you to line up your next shot. So you're essentially chaining together kills, and once you complete a map, you get that overhead view of the bullet's trajectory.
Yes.
And it's a puzzle game that you need to take note of your surroundings, the environment, and even kind of the cultist paths. Cultists react to the death or to death around them, and they'll go into a panic, which you can use to your advantage as it gives you a better line of sight for the next kill. But
Mm-hmm.
it's still an arcade game as well. At the end, you'll be scored based on a number of factors, including headshots, kill change, stealth, how fast, your creativity, all that stuff you are probably judged on. But I
Uh-huh.
do like how there seems to be, you know, submissions for each of the levels based on the level description when you select it. I think level 2 or so was like fire makes the bullet burn. That actively encourages you to have a bullet fly through the bonfire, and once it does, the
Mm-hmm.
map description pops up again and is crossed out. I think it's little things like that that adds to the overall presentation. For me personally, Matt, very strong first impression. Each
Yes.
demo level seems like you can solve it numerous ways, but how about you, Matt? What did you feel of Children of the Sun?
Jaren, the kind of like bullet ricocheting mechanic of like, after you hit your first target, your next bullet flies from like where you hit your target, just caught me off guard because I was legitimately not expecting that for this game.
Yeah.
I don't know, that like really, really made me like it because I was wondering when I was reading the description for this game, like, oh, how really like tactical can you make a like sniper game? Because it was like touting itself as a tactical sniper game, and I don't know, Jen. That I don't know how else you do it now other than that. The kind of like you mentioned, the overhead view screenshot or like capture of your bullet travel
Yeah.
like
Yeah, the
trajectory
travel
or
path,
like map path is so good. You mentioned like earlier like kind of like how Blood had just like a really good kind of a selfie mechanic. Jaren, for me, this is what took my like, oh, this is an amazing use of like the screenshot function.
Right.
And like them building that into the game, and I guess like basically making that your, oh, yo, check out this like sick path I did is like really, really interesting to me. But Jared, I don't understand how to get like higher scores.
Yeah, same.
I think the highest I got was maybe 1800 as like a placement. And I don't know how to get any higher than that.
Yeah, some of those leaderboard scores I was scrolling through looked insane, and it's one of those. It's hard for me to want to look up, not necessarily speed runs, but high score videos because one, that kind of defeats the purpose of you solving the puzzle. But at the same time, yeah, I don't know how the score actually works. But
yeah,
I think ignoring that part, yeah, really fun mechanic. Really looking forward to this, and yeah. Yep, right up that Devolver publisher alley. But yeah, definitely something I want to kind of check in the future as well. But Matt, any other games? Well, I know we both still have a handful of games, but what's another game that you checked out?
Jaren, another game that I checked out is Oddsparks. Jaren, this is an automator, kind of in the realm of Factorio or something like that.
Okay.
But it uses, I guess, like in-world Pikmin. And I don't know, the charm of it is so good, Jaren. I think like it controls like pretty well. Like it's very, I want to say like intuitive. I don't know if like intuitive is really the right word, but like I think because it does have some like weird mechanics into it because you are combining a automator and Pikmin. But I think like the choices that they made in combining those two systems feels very good once you kind of like read through how it's supposed to work. I don't know. I like me a good kind of just like game where you can build stuff. It is always like so satisfying to me when you get to do that sort of thing. But Jaren, and a big but for me here is that I think the game itself is very slow.
Oh, okay.
I think the kind of movement speed, the production rate, like the kind of in mission or in world like mission progression is all a bit too slow for my liking. Like if they could make it, if you could like move maybe like, I don't know, 25% faster, the production rate was 25% faster. I think the thing that really like bothers me the most is a lot of the kind of opening missions of the game are, hey, make me these, like, X amount of these things. And I think that the number that they're asking for at the very start is too high.
Right.
Because I found myself just waiting a lot, which kind of feels bad at the very start of the game. But I don't know, like, the game itself feels like it's 80% of the way there for me. It's just that last 20% quality of life that I just really, really want so that I can fully invest into this is what I'm waiting for.
Okay. I know this is a April 24th title. Do you think that, I guess, time balance is something that can be addressed by then? Or have you seen anything that hints that it's being looked at?
I doubt it's going to be addressed by then. But Jaren, like the thing is that like for the things that are bothering me about this game, these are things that are I think easily moddable.
Right.
So
Okay.
that is enough of a thing that where I'm like, this isn't a break for me. It is something that I'm still going to like very much keep my eye on and probably buy in the future.
Nice.
The quality of life stuff is just not exactly there for me, but I think for probably a lot of people it's probably just fine for them.
Okay. Yeah.
The charm of this game, I think like the kind of like I don't know, the Pikmin like things that they created are all like very good. They're all just kind of like wooden stumps or kind of just like all sort of like forest spirits that do your work for you. The game itself is or the map itself for the game is like randomized enough that there's intriguing like kind of build questions that you have to like answer for yourself where you can't really just look up a guide. You just have to be like, okay, well, I'm gonna link these things together like this so that I like my my fake Pikmin will do their thing properly.
Right.
I don't know. Like a lot of the stuff is very, 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 very interesting to me. I think like it is just quality of life stuff, like movement speed, like how long it kind of like. I think the opening is very kind of slow. I wish it had a mini map, Jaren. I think
Fair.
a game like this like really needs a mini map, and for a game that kind of like you can drop materials on the floor, I think it's a crime when games like kind of drop the equivalent of stuff like herbs or coins or stuff, and you have to individually click them to pick them
Oh,
up.
I hate that. I hate that.
Yeah, you need to
Just
be able
let
to
me
run
hold a
over
button.
things. Yeah, hold a button or like run over them. Like are the two things I want. This game has multiplayer, which is very interesting to me. I think like that is going to work very, very well for it. If it's also going to like kind of, I think it like also similarly scratches a sort of Stardew itch for me. So I think like having multiplayer in that sort of game is a very good choice, and I'm looking forward to
Okay.
seeing what like monstrosities people are going to create in this game through automation.
All right. Okay. So it sounds like one of those games, Matt.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But Matt,
Mm-hmm.
for another game that I checked out, it was called, or it is called, Metaghost: The Breaking Show. To be determined in terms of release date. But Matt,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
do you like Hades?
Jaren, I love Hades.
I feel
Well, sort of
like
like Hades.
I feel like Hades is the template and, for all intents and purposes, goalpost of a action isometric roguelite.
Mm-hmm.
And with Metaghost, the Breaking Show, I feel like it wears that Hades inspiration on its sleeve, but okay. Flavor wise, tell me if you've heard this before.
Okay.
It's a bleak cyberpunk future where 8 contestants come together to take part in the Breaking Show, a reality competition where you fight the AI that stole your jobs, you gain likes, sponsors, and ultimately work your way towards a big prize pool.
Mm-hmm.
And you start off as Taisuke, a futuristic shinobi who has a toxin based sickness and is fighting for his orphanage. Along the way, you meet other contestants such as Jean, this bratty lolly character that uses a heavy weapon, and
Of course.
Jan, the hacker who uses drones to fight, and she's more so your ranged, kind of mage like character.
Mm-hmm.
As you meet more contestants and sponsors to add to your lounge team, you're able to select them for your next run. And Matt, it has
Mm-hmm.
everything you would expect: a basic attack, a heavy attack, a dodge, and an ultimate move. There are danger areas on the ground that you should avoid, and enemies also have posture that you're able to break in order to temporarily stop time from the looks of it. You clear enemy rooms, and as you make your way through these rooms, you'll finally get to the boss of the floor. Standard roguelite stuff.
Mm-hmm.
After every encounter, you can unlock something called drives, which are essentially your active combat buffs, which lore wise, these are from different corporate sponsors. You also, you have health drives from the medical pharmaceutical corp. You have tech savvy ones from the corp owned by a handyman, or you can pick up relics, which are more passive perks. And in game, these are plucked from previous fallen contestants and AI enemies. But in that lounge area, you can spend another currency for weapon upgrades and passives that carry on throughout all your runs. After the qualifying round, your three characters are, you get a bit of story. Your three characters are talking. And Matt, again, tell me if you heard this before. But while Jan was hacking, she found some suspicious files that imply that the breaking show isn't everything it seems to be.
Classic.
But each character receives, their own weapon currency, so you don't have to sacrifice one character's growth for, the others. And, that's always a nice plus when you have multiple characters in a game. Plus, you can refund them at will, allowing you to play around with them. Passive upgrades are shared between everyone. But yeah, during the runs themselves, you earn likes from your performance and random map encounters. Likes can be used before bosses to refill health, buy new drives or perks. You can also fuse drives together to make more powerful enhanced versions of them, which is pretty cool too. But overall, Matt, it's one of those games and it plays fine enough. It has a nice look to it, though I think of all the levels I played, the environments are the least impressive aspect of the game. They are what you kind of expect from the setting. The qualifiers were essentially on rooftops, with the next set of rounds taking place in like this crimson industrial warehouse setting. But yeah, Matt, I wouldn't say plays as smooth as Hades, but it's competent enough. It, again, when you get a new sponsored, it's essentially the same thing as one of the gods from Hades, kind of giving you new perks and abilities. So a lot of, similarities there. But if you're just looking for an isometric roguelite with a cyberpunk aesthetic, you can definitely do worse. But yeah, Metaghost, the breaking show, is probably something I'll end up picking up when it does come out, because embarrassingly enough, Matt, this was the one demo I spent the most time with. Because again, it's one of those games, it's easy for you to say, okay, one more round. So characters are likable enough. But yeah, check it out if that's your jam. But Matt, anything else you were jamming to?
Jaren, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Jaren, do you like Hades?
Matt? I too like Hades. I actually like this game called Metaghost, the breaking show, which is kind of like Hades.
Well, Jared, let me introduce you to another game that's kind of like Hades.
Okay.
Which I think is honestly a bit too much like Hades.
Okay.
It is called Realm of Ink. Jaren, this is Hades with a kind of like Chinese coat of paint on it.
Okay, fair.
It is honestly, Jaren, so literally Hades. Like I don't really know how to explain this game to you other than it's Hades. Jaren,
right?
Tell me if you heard this before.
Yes.
Actually, I guess this is gonna be a little bit. You play as a girl who is trying to escape hell, and when she dies, she gets brought back to a very red house, which is an inn where you can kind of talk to NPCs, change your weapon, and kind of like go back into hell to try to get out of it.
Matt, is her father ridiculing her every time she returns home?
No, Jaren, see, her father isn't the one who is in the red inn with her. It is a big boobed anime fox girl.
Of course, Matt.
Jaren, the character's name is Red, and when you first initially meet her, her costume is red, but it is red because the weapon she uses is red. And when you switch her to other weapons, her whole outfit changes color, and I don't like that. I don't like that they named her Red when her outfit changes color.
Is there any character-wise, design-wise, is there anything red that sticks to her, or?
Not really, Jaren.
That's unfortunate,
really.
Matt. That's unfortunate.
Mm-hmm. But as far as kind of unique mechanics go, kind of separating it a little bit away from Hades, is these things called inks, which are basically your abilities that you don't like start out with. It's like not your standard like heavy attack, like dash attack, light attack that come with your weapon. These are abilities that are mapped to your trigger buttons, and these are a lot like the god powers that are in Hades, but you are limited to two, kind of like as the standard like FPS like loadout sort of way.
Yeah.
The kind of nice thing about this is that they have a kind of passive effect on, like, outside of their active effect of, like whatever the trigger makes them do. They all have their kind of own passive effect where, some make you like crit more, some make you like do a certain type of damage. But you also have a kind of pet with you. And depending on which two inks you have, like the inks are stuff like, an earth ink, a metal ink, fire ink, water ink, like that sort of thing. The pet changes their attack ability, which I think is like kind of cool. The game itself is, I think, pretty solid. I think that everything in the game is telegraphed very well. I think that is like one of my favorite things about this game. It gives you so much warning, or an appropriate amount of warning, I think, for everything that's going to happen. And I think becomes especially like fair about that when it comes to the bosses, because the bosses kind of do every boss has 2 health bars where, like, you kind of have like their normal health bar to get used to them, and then their second health bar where it's slightly changed but still very similar and adaptable. And I was surprised at how fair the game felt when it came down to it.
Okay.
But I think the big but here is that, like I said, it is so close to Hades in terms of like the kind of style it's going for, in terms of like the gameplay, in terms of basically everything. It is so close to Hades, and it doesn't differentiate itself enough that I wonder like who the audience for this really is. Right, I guess outside of just like, I don't know, someone who wants Hades with I'll be honest, like a slightly worse Hades with a kind of a Chinese theming to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I don't know, I'm kind of curious as to like how this is going to do financially, for like a better way to state it. Because like, while I do think the game is like a solid kind of like 7, when you have like basically like a 9 or 10 out of 10 game in Hades, I don't know why you would gravitate towards Realm of Ink.
Yeah, I know with, going back to Metaghost,
mm-hmm.
I think, again, its aesthetic is that cyberpunk feel where I think between that and the different characters that you can play as and how they interact with each other, I think that might be enough to appeal to a Hades audience that are looking for the next isometric roguelike to play. Where when you were describing Realm of Ink, as cool as it sounds on paper, again, we're on the eve of Hades 2 as well, where if the style and visuals aren't notably that different, or at least they have the same trappings, I think it might be a tougher fight for this game, which is kind of unfortunate. But me, Matt, I'm a sucker for these types of games, so it's now on my radar at the very least. And I'm hoping that this somehow, to have a chance, releases either relatively before or relatively after Hades 2. But yeah, Matt, anything else from Realm of Ink that caught your attention?
I don't know. I thought I'm interested in seeing if they're going to go heavier on the voice stuff, because I feel like that's, if they're going to be Chinese Hades, I would also kind of want the kind of audio portion that comes with Hades, because the game itself is already voice acted. Okay. So I'm curious if they're going to bring more into it.
Okay. Fair, Matt. That's fair. But next for me during the Steam Next Fest was a game that we briefly touched upon during our 2024 pre-cap. And you asked me straight up, so what is this game? And I couldn't tell you. But Matt, I can now tell you what Pacific Drive is, which is releasing pretty soon as well, February 22nd. But
Hmm.
the premise of Pacific Drive is that in the 1940s, the government walled off a zone. And by the 1950s, it was completely walled off. No one can get in or out. The game itself takes place in the 90s, where you're driving around and then an anomaly ports you either inside or outside the zone. I'm actually not sure, but anyway, you're stuck, Matt.
Uh-huh.
You find a remnant car. In the game, remnants are these objects that become bound to its finder and apparently takes over their brains, so the host is obsessed with them. But I think that was the extent that I really followed the story, Matt. Your goal, of course, is to find a way out of the zone. You meet inhabitants along the way to help you with that. Of course, um, all the interactions are via radio, so I haven't met any NPC during my time with Pacific Drive. So, Matt, one of those games.
Hmm.
The demo itself is the tutorial plus one mission. And due to, like lore wise, due to the instability of the zone, things are being zapped in and out all the time. Giant mountains could be there 1 minute and then the next they're not. And there are safe zones, which is where your garage is, places that aren't affected by these anomalies, these transportations and whatnot. The gameplay loop of Pacific Drive is pretty simple. You go to your garage to install updates and fix your car. Then you get ported to a semi stable zone to loot materials for your car, your garage, all while finding logbooks because the places are abandoned, of course. And
Hmm.
that's how you get the story in these type of games. You can loot to your heart's content because once you leave, that place will cease to exist. And that's kind of the
Uh,
rogue nature of the game.
hmm.
Uh, you loot areas while dealing with environmental hazards, radiation, and honestly, freakier robot drones that so far in the demo only abduct your car and drag it far from you, causing you to walk to it. So
Uh-huh.
the game is in first person, but I hope there's a third person driving angle because, Matt, you know me,
Uh-huh.
I hate first person driving. It controls fine for the most part. Both driving and looting feel good. I think at first, like any roguelite, it's just information overload. So many mechanics, menus, and text to really get a feel for. But at
Hmm.
least there are a lot of accessibility options to tune the difficulty for your run when you begin as well. Everything from the FOV to dropping things on death. I didn't really explore it since I wanted the vanilla experience during my time with the demo, but there were essentially 5 different pages with a list of toggles for your preference, which is really
Oh,
nice.
nice. Hmm.
But the game itself has this element of driving sim to a degree where you need to manually start the car by turning the ignition. You have to put it in drive and brake when you're done. You can eventually upgrade your car too to have different active abilities, which isn't present in the demo. But
Hmm.
overall, the demo played well, and the idea of stability, instability of the world, I wonder how weird it can get. Like in the first area, I essentially saw a crowd of people all looking at a preacher. Well, I didn't get too close, Matt, because I'm a scaredy baby.
Uh-huh.
They all look like if you touch them, they would disintegrate into ash. But
Uh,
yeah, for the tutorial, it's a lot of analyzing your car, fixing various areas, replacing tires. Um, so far, a lot of the car maintenance is pretty in depth, but that's basically what you do in between runs. You
hmm.
get a scrap tool and you can destroy abandoned cars for parts, which is also nice. The inventory is that classic Resident Evil Tetris moving stuff to fit. But yeah, I think my favorite part, Matt, is I like at the end of your runs, you essentially need to recharge your car by taking some orb that makes the area stable, which means once you grab it and put it in your car, the area starts to collapse. So you're essentially racing towards the teleport
Oh,
point. Yeah, the
nice.
teleport point
Nice.
to get you back into your garage. But overall, I can see myself really enjoying the run aspect, the looting. Matt, it's a looting and tooting game. Again, I wonder how weird it will get, how varied the enemies will be, how the combat will turn out both in and out of car. Because, of course, Matt, you have to wonder, will I get a gun at some point if I'm able to arm my vehicle? But yeah, there's enough of that, SCP weirdness that makes me want to see how far it goes. But for the most part, really enjoyed my time with Pacific Drive and looking forward to its release February 22nd. But Matt, any other games that caught your attention during Steam Next Fest?
Jaren, I have one more that I want to bring to the Mistake Zone. And it is Emberward.
Okay. Jaren,
this is a Tetronimo tower defense game, and
you just said a tongue twister, Matt.
I was reading that over a couple of times to make sure I said it right. Yeah. But Jaren, I think that tower defenses are something that just I don't know, I had a very strong love for when they first started popping off as Flash games, and one that always kind of stuck with me was Desktop Tower Defense. I don't know if you remember that one in particular.
Vaguely, Matt.
Because for me, that one had the most of what I liked, where it had kind of simple towers. It had lots of waves. It had and I think most importantly for me, it had the ability to maze, which is something I really liked in tower defense games. And this one turns tower defense into a roguelike.
Not my favorite word. I think the word of the episode, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I think most of the games I brought were roguelikes, to be honest.
Yeah.
I actually think the only one that wasn't a roguelike that I brought is Oddsparks. Children of the Sun, I guess. But Jaren, I really like the way that they did the roguelike nature for this. Which is that it does the kind of usual roguelike thing where, at the end of every level, you get a item. That item is your towers. And then the kind of aspect that makes it more randomized is that you also get these cards. And these cards have Tetramino pieces on them, which is basically Tetris pieces. And you use the Tetris pieces, you randomly draw, I think it's 4 or 5 at the start of the game. And you kind of just keep putting them down, and that's where you put your towers. So it has that nice kind of randomization to it where you're not exactly sure. You have an idea of how you want your path to go, but the Tetranimos force you to adapt to what you are given. And I just really, really like how that feels. It's a very nice way to incorporate mazing in a way that doesn't make it boring.
Okay.
Because I remember finding that of course the ideal way is to funnel everybody into one line and then just put all your towers there, and that is what I'm doing in this game. But the Tetraminoes are giving me enough variability that it keeps that portion of the game interesting for me. And due to the fact that not all the towers are kind of just 1x1 squares. Some of them are 1x3, some of them are 2x2, and sort of stuff like that. It adds even more consideration on how you're going to be building your maze. And I don't know, it is a very solid game. The kind of passives that you get are very interesting because a lot of the passives kind of work by hey, electric towers do more stuff, or big towers do more stuff, or they get this kind of modification to them. And all the towers having their own kind of stats, I guess, or qualifiers, stuff they're attack speed, they're elemental type, and I don't know, kind of stuff like that feels very good, and you can create a good build out of it. I don't know. Yeah. The game itself feels very, very good as a roguelike, and I'm looking forward to the full release of it.
Okay. When's it aiming for release?
This is supposed to be coming out Q2 of this year. Okay. So hopefully that doesn't get pushed too far.
Hopefully. Yeah, something to look forward to. But Matt, I think the final game that I checked out during Steam Next Fest is also coming soon. And hopefully that's sooner rather than later. But I checked out a game called Mullet Mad Jack. And Matt, this is a fever dream that has such first-person Hotline Miami energy that I'm here for it. But Mullet Mad Jack has you playing as, I'm guessing, Jack, who is mad, as indicated by the fact that his license plate says angrier with one as the eye. And he also has a mullet. So I think you know what you get by the first few seconds of the game's intro cinematic. But style-wise, it's very 80s anime, neon, synthwave inspired. The princess influencer you're trying to save definitely looks like the heroine of a anime we had to stay up until 1 a.m. to watch on YTV. But premise-wise, you're part of a cyberpunk dystopian future, stop me if you've heard this before, where the internet has synthesized, or where man and the internet has synthesized, rogue AIs inhabit robotic bodies, are known as robot billionaires or robo billionaires, and everyone watches live death streams or death live streams for sport. Matt, as Mullet Mad Jack, you're a moderator, and you now compete in such live streams that you basically need to traverse 10 floors in order to get to the princess. You have a sassy announcer who's also talking to you in between rooms, cheering you on while seeing you as disposable at the same time. But Matt, here's the kicker. Depending on the difficulty, you only have 10 seconds to live on top of your health bar. Once 10 seconds are up, you're dead. Of course, you feed off social media likes, and every time you kill an enemy, fans like it and give you 3 more seconds on the clock.
True.
So the gameplay loop is simple. Run through a maze-like floor, choosing doors in search of an exit. Enemies stand in your way where you have to use weapons to shoot them. You can kick them into environmental hazards and earn finisher opportunities. You're scored in a ways to earn bonus seconds. You can use vending machines for additional health and life. And in between rooms, you get power-ups. But it's a fast pace, it's in your face, and it really gives me that perfect run feeling I had when playing Hotline Miami and even Neon White for the first time. In between floors, as I said before, you get opportunities to get one of 3 upgrades, and these vary from new weapons to ricochet or explosive bullet chance, extra speed. Kicking an opponent triggers a double damage for your next shot. So you can kind of build in a way that's really fun and hopefully adds more life to your run. But Matt, you traverse 10 floors to get to the princess, and on the 10th floor is a boss fight. And I think this is a more traditional FPS encounter where you have your own health bar. You don't have to worry about that 10-second time limit. And you need to fight an enemy in an arena. Finishing the fight grants you your, evergreen permanent upgrade. And Matt, needless to say, the princess is on another floor, and you're taunted by another robo-billionaire that, Matt, tell me if you heard this before. The robo-billionaire questions if your character has their own agency and asks you what true freedom is. So, again, Matt, one of those games. And I don't know, Mullet Mad Jack left such a great impression where I died around floor 13 and I stopped playing because I want to experience this all when it comes out. Again, it's coming soon, but I think it's a really well-polished demo. I'm not sure how many floors it has in all, but yeah, simple enough controls, arrow keys to move, shift to dash, space to jump, left click to fire, right click for your melee or your finisher. I think with how fast the game is, you need some time to really adjust to its speed and to better line up those head or crotch shots because, Matt, of course, this game rewards crotch shots. But yeah, I think the first few rounds, I really was really having to get used to how fast, I guess, your cursor is in general. I think hopefully by the time the game comes out, you can kind of adjust the speed. But yeah, solid first person shooter with roguelite elements. Really a fan of the demo. Didn't play it to its endpoint, but I think the 40 minutes I spent with it was enough to really make a good impression, and definitely something I'll be checking out in the future. But Matt, with that, I think that was a successful Steam Next Fest for us this time around, where I think I'm really looking forward to our Steam Next Fest wrap up episodes. But the bummer part is a lot of games I added to my wish list, Matt, and I'm also realized that we really went through them in depth. Where when the games do eventually come out, not sure what we'll talk about then, but problem to have when we get there. But Matt, as always, I want to thank you for joining me this week and editing these fine Poopcast episodes.
Thanks, Jaren. And as always, I want to thank you for getting us together this week and hosting this show like you do every single week.
Thanks, man. Matt, I want to thank Steam. I want to thank Next. I want to thank Fests. And again, really fun demos this time around. And I know after this episode, I'm going to, look up the list that you sent of games and kind of wish list a few of them. But another beefy boy episode, talked about a lot of games. And that can only mean one thing. Matt, take it away.
This has been the Mistake Zone, and we're all out of getting tricked into playing gacha games.
Not roguelites, though, Matt. We played hell of roguelites. Oh, you know what this tastes like? Shit. Lime Skittles. That's what was slipping my mind. Okay. Okay. That's just for you and me, Matt.
Nice. I'll put that in after the credits. Or after the ending song.
That's a little bonus.